As always, this video will contain spoilers for Outer Wilds. Hello everyone, I am the Lore Explorer, and this is Outer Wilds, an open solar system exploration game in which you're trapped in a 22-minute time loop. To find out why and how we're trapped in a time loop, we spend those 22 minutes exploring ancient ruins trying to piece together the story and mechanics behind this mystery. And in today's loop, I'm going to talk about a cool quirk that my interpretation of the game inherently implies. If the infinite multiverse theory is true, then literally every loop every single player of Outer Wilds has experienced is actually in-universe lore. Every trip and stumble and every amazing space pioneering thing anyone's ever done all goes down as true historical fact in the canonical history of Outer Wilds, which would be really awesome if you ask me. Now, to preface, I'm basically a contrarian when it comes to the game. As the game's characters and description tells you, you're in a 22-minute time loop. Most people think that's a single timeline looping over and over again because the Ash Twin Project's black hole resets the universe, or something similar like the memories being sent back erases or rewrites that timeline. But in my opinion, if we take the game as a whole, considering the quantum phenomenon and its implications, and the Eye of the Universe and its capabilities, I don't think we're experiencing a single timeline looping, or one timeline being rewritten over and over or something like that. What I think we're experiencing is many parallel universes or timelines which are receiving memories from a completely separate timeline's future. This basically stems from the fact that I am convinced the Eye of the Universe is a quantum black hole, and just as the Eye sends everything back in time to a new universe, what we call 14.3 billion years later, I posit the Ash Twin Project's black hole also sends our memories to another universe, just not far enough back in time for it to be a new universe. To me, this answers a lot of questions. Now, I understand to others this raises more questions than it answers, but that's not really the point of this video. What I want to talk about today is the inherent implication the infinite parallel universe theory has within it if it's true, and how this would actually kind of fit into the premise of the game that we already know. And that implication is what I mentioned in the intro. From the very second you picked up the game, to the moment that you stumbled your way to the Eye of the Universe and observed the universe itself, is all legitimately fact and canonically lore in the universe of Outer Wilds. And it's not only your experience, but everyone's experience is legitimate canon. Every player's experience combines and comes together to make one big story and tell the true lore of the multiverse of Outer Wilds. Now, let me take a step back and give a bit of context. In a truly infinite parallel universe, like I imagine Outer Wilds to be, a split path or parallel universe exists for every possible scenario. For if we wake up and the quantum moon is in front of us, or at another planet. For every possible position that the orbital probe cannon could fire, or every random combination of how brittle hollow could break up, and every possible combination of all of those things combined. For everything you can think of. The best example I have is for each instance of the rocks and trees in the quantum forest throughout the solar system. A universe exists for each and every one of those certainties, and in fact, multiple universes for each and every one of them. And what this would essentially mean to this theory is, those different split parallel universes are the loops that we experience as players. Every second that you played and adored the game, we're all truly part of the multiverse and canonical lore of the game. This would mean that many versions of the character would actually make it to the Eye of the Universe, and from this, the Eye would create many more universes, all slightly different from each other. And really, I think this would fit perfectly with what we see in the game, or rather, I think that's what we're actually seeing already. When we visit the Eye, we observe the Eye and the universe we're currently in, and this makes them certain. This allows the Eye to send the entire universe 14.3 billion years back in time, and this essentially creates a new universe. And by all accounts, that has happened before to create our universe, happened to create this one that we see 14.3 billion years later, and it will likely happen again afterwards. Now sure, we only experience one of them ourselves, but that shouldn't stop the cycle. That should be an endless cycle as long as a criteria is met. And again, a truly infinite cycle of universes would create a version for every possible scenario. So basically, what I'm saying is, every time each one of us made it to the Eye of the Universe and started a new universe 14.3 billion years later, they'd all be slightly different universes. and this would be how the infinite multiverse theory can happen. Now, we all think of the 14.3 billion years later as just so, sequential time, 14.3 billion years later, because we're told it's later. But that's from our perspective as a character. I mean, I'm not saying that's not true, but it's from our perspective. And there is a perspective where time doesn't exist, which is a pretty important perspective in the universe. The eye of the universe's perspective. The one object which exists and connects every possible version of the universe and every timeline. And to the eye, since time doesn't exist there, these universes should all exist simultaneously. They're all there at the same time to the eye, which essentially naturally builds the scenario I'm talking about. But really, the mechanics behind it aren't all that important for this video's sake. What I think is interesting is there's a chance that all of our stories actually come together to make one true canonical lore of the game. And this is all compared to a normal single-player game where there may be many different endings and combinations of such, but really, only one of those endings is considered the true ending, the actual lore of the game. And for Outer Wilds, many think the true ending is the one with both Solemn and the prisoner at the Ancient Glade with us, when we probably also lost our scout in the Ancient Glade earlier, and that comes flying by too. And that may be the case, that may be totally true, and it would make sense. And I know it's sorta silly, and really, it's just one possibility, but I think it's awesome to think that every loop every player has ever experienced in the game may actually be in-universe canonical lore, and all of our stories would come together to create many different outcomes themselves. It's like not only have we experienced the emotions and combined love for Outer Wilds together as a community, but our experience in the game itself would actually have come together to mean something and tell the actual story of the Outer Wilds multiverse. To me, that would be kind of poetic. And it would mean that every amazing story that you all have relayed to me, I could take that as something that literally happened in-universe as canon, legit lore. And I think not only would that be amazing, it's probably something unique not many other single-player games could even think to make reality. Now, of course, if it were true, it would bring up some more philosophical questions and whatnot, but this video simply wanted to touch on that implication about how your experience could be actually canon in the game. But what about you? Do you think that's a silly idea? Or do you think that theory or implication would be amazing if true? I think it'd be awesome and sort of serve to bring the community a little closer knowing that all of our stories are connected. But even if it's not, I hope you at least found the thought interesting. If you liked the video, or were at least, intrigued by it, consider subscribing to the channel. I have hundreds of videos covering Outer Wilds and some other games, and plenty of more to come. A simple click to the subscribe button on your part really does go a long way for me. So thank you, I appreciate it if you would. As usual, a special thanks to the members here on the channel. YouTube just added some new features which highlight members on my channel page. So if you head to my channel page, you may find your profile being showcased there, which I think is pretty cool because you definitely all deserve the recognition. Thanks so much for being a member and supporting the channel. And as always, this is a lore explorer diving deep into some strange concepts so you don't have to.